Welcome to another episode of the Phase Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Terrell Humphrey, and today we're going to talk about identifying why there are no secrets. I've produced over 893 podcast episodes, and I've been podcasting for the last half a decade. Throughout that journey, I've been learning about business, been implementing business, and been adjusting the business that I've been doing. Nonetheless, I want to bring you along the journey and inform you of everything that I'm doing, what's working, what's not working, and what you can do that can actually help you launch your podcast with confidence. So first thing first, make sure you got your pen, you got your notebook. We're going to get started with this powerful conversation. So first thing first, there are no secrets. Okay. Why isn't there no secrets? A lot of times when I was coming up, I used to think that people had a secret ingredient. Like what made people successful? How were they successful? And I was just blown away by the amount of people who had success. And then when I start to grow up and I joined the Marine Corps and I play football, then I joined the Marine Corps, then I go to all these different places. Then it's like, it's not the fact that people or don't have a secret. It's more so that they develop a routine of creating success. Oh man, something is in my eye. Something is in my eye. All right, there we go. It should be good now. All right. I think it was a hair. All right. Nonetheless, okay, let's get it. Real time live. Okay, golly. Anywho, there are no secrets. There's just a routine. There are no secrets. It's just a habit. There are no secrets. It's just commitment. When you commit to your journey, you are literally developing a secret. Because then as you develop the secret from you showing up, people are going to start to ask you, how did you do it? The secret ingredient is showing up. It's showing up when things are simple. It's showing up when things are consistent. It's showing up when things might seem like it's not working. Nonetheless, as you continue to show up, as you continue to do the work, as you continue to get better, eventually it will pay off. You see, there are no secrets because you are literally doing the work. The work that you're doing is developing the secret. So first point we're going to talk about is that the secret, let's just change the secret can't even spell secret now. Hold on. Let's just change secret. ET equals hard work. The secret is hard work. The secret is consistent work. The secret is figuring out what you are doing. I tell you this, when I started my podcast production business, I didn't even know it was a business, but when I started the Phase Knowledge Podcast a half a decade, and then I start to learn that it can become a business, I'm like, how? Because I'm trying to figure out how to get paid from the podcast. I'm thinking that the views, the posting online is the thing that's going to pay you. But in reality, it hasn't paid me. It can. But the struggle came from understanding the business side of podcasting. And so as I started to understand, like, hold on. There's something here that I'm missing. There's something here that I'm not understanding. What I'm not understanding is how to get paid from it. People ask me, like, how do you get paid from it? At the time, I'm like, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. Over the years, over the different podcast conversations, over the different mentor conversations, over different business programs, over the different go to school for business, just learning about business is like, well, there's a way you can get paid from it. Yesterday, I talked about having a plan around the thing that you would like to do. In other words, create a business plan around your plan. So when you understand that there's a business around your podcast, the podcast can start creating revenue or can start generating revenue. And I'll tell you this right quick. Hold on. The podcast is just one part of the conversation. The podcast is just one part of the conversation. So what does that mean? That means that if you don't understand, that don't look like a stick figure. Okay, there we go. What comes after the podcast, then you're missing the point. You see, the conversation, anybody can have a conversation. Anybody can press record. Anybody can document their process. Nonetheless, if you're just recording and posting online, yes, you're bringing people along the journey, but there's some way to monetize your podcast. There's some way to monetize your audience. There's some way to make a business around content creation. And I tell you this, it's not the fact that it's not working. It's more so you have to figure out how to make it work. You see, there are no secrets. There are strategies. Okay. Secrets is hard work because hard work leads to strategies. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Hold on. I spelled that wrong. Hold on. Got too excited. Hard work or strategies. Tegies. The more strategies you have, the more you are operating as a business. The more you operate as a business, the more you can charge for your services. The more you charge for your services and or products, the more people come to you because you are an authority. You see, it's not the fact that there are secrets. It's more so the people who are successful, who got it from the mud, who got it from like not having anything, made a commitment to get up every single day to do the work. You see, you gotta be committed to do the work every single day because you don't know what this work is going to lead to. You see, I'll tell you this right quick. I'll tell you a quick story. When I moved back to Little Rock, Arkansas, after I got the Marine Corps, and let me take a pause right quick. Sending prayers to all the people that's going out to the war right now. And by me being proud service member, sending prayers to all my service family members as well. So with that being said, you make a decision. When you make a decision to do the work that you're doing has to be considered. It has to be a consideration because it's not going to pay off overnight. I'm thinking that when I first started back in 2021, August of 2021, I was like, ooh, I think I'm gonna be a millionaire in a month time frame. 30 days, I'm gonna be a millionaire. 30 days passed, I was not a millionaire. I still was trying to figure out what I was doing. Nonetheless, I knew at that moment that I dreamed big. It's not the fact that dreaming big is bad. It's more so you have to be practical behind your dreams. You cannot have a big dream without showing up to work towards that dream. And it blew my mind. It's not the fact that I wasn't the person to make $1 million. It's just that I didn't have the strategy to make $1 million. I didn't have the business to make $1 million. I was only dependent on making money on social media, yet I didn't understand how to use social media to make money as a business owner. You see, the shift literally taught me that there are no secrets, there are commitments. There are no secrets, there are sacrifices. There are no secrets, there are a foundation that you're building upon everything that you're doing. Everything that you do comes from you understanding how to do it. There are no secrets because you learn how to show up every single day. You see, when I was playing high school football, if I wanted to get better, I needed to do extra work. If I wanted to learn more about the plays, I need to study longer. If I wanted to just be a better person overall, I had to do more work. You see how that translates in business is that the strategies that you have leads you to do more. Leads you to do more. The strategy help you be consistent. The strategy help you not be all over the place. The strategy help you create the secret that people are going to ask you about. How did you do it? They don't ask, what did you sacrifice? They don't ask, how much time did it take? They don't ask, how much effort did you put in? They ask, what's your secret? And as I started to really get in tune with everything that I'm doing, the business start to make sense. The podcast production is the business that I'm building, I'm working towards. And learning how to get customers consistently rather than just inconsistently. It's like, okay, cool. What strategy do I need to have? What plan do I need to implement? And how much action do I need to take? You see, starting from the ground is difficult, but when you go from the bottom, you go from the bottom to the next step. You don't go from the bottom to the top because the top has yet to come. What happens is that you are progressing. Hold on. Let me come back to this. You're progressing. You call that progression. When you progress, you are developing. When you progress, you are learning. When you progress, you are understanding what you are doing. You see, this right here is called a progression ladder. Well, it's called a value ladder. I read it from learning from ClickFunnels. Shout out to Russell Brunson. Haven't met him in person. But nonetheless, I digress. This right here is called a progress ladder. Progress ladder. And what this means is that this right here is the bottom. Just because you at the bottom don't mean you can't get to the top. This right here is the top right here. I'm gonna put it right here. This right here is the top. Just because you start at the bottom doesn't mean you can't get to the top. But see, to get through there, this right here, these moments, these steps, these obstacles that's exactly what they call the obstacles. The obstacles might look different. The obstacles might be confusing. The obstacles might be challenging to overcome. Yet when you overcome the challenge, you are making that step. When I start to really get serious around podcasting, I got serious around content creation. See, that's step number one. At first, I had to figure out what I was talking about, what I was speaking about, who I was speaking to. You see, that step right there alone is the foundation that I'm going to build upon. Nonetheless, as I continue to build, I continue to face different obstacles. It's not the fact that the podcast production business is not a business. I had to figure out what steps I needed to take. Ironically enough, the steps that I was taking is the documentation I've been doing over the last half a decade. You see, it might seem easy. It might appear easy, but it's not easy. You see, there are no secrets because every step teaches you a lesson. Hold on. Let me bring it right here. Every step has a lesson. The more you step, the more you learn. The more you march, the more you grow. The more you move, the more secrets you will have. Hold on. Check this out. It's not the fact that the secrets that you're trying to develop is not coming from the steps that you're taking. It's more so when you get into business, there's a lot of things that you have to learn. You have to learn sales. Well, there's a lot of things I had to learn. I had to learn sales. I had to learn marketing. I had to learn finances. I'm still learning all these different things. Nonetheless, I'm learning team development. I'm learning systems development. I'm learning how to reach it out. You see, there's so many different steps that you have to go through. In addition to that, there's a process to understand what you're doing. You see, when I started to recognize that it was obstacles because it was something that I wasn't familiar with, the obstacles became a challenge. The obstacles became the foundation. The obstacles became the path that created the secret. When I start learning it, and I start applying it, things start to change differently. Hold on. What changed is that every step, hold on. Every blank has a lesson. This is supposed to be every step has a lesson. Every step has a lesson. And with every step you grow, with every step you learn, with every step you develop. With the podcast production business, I've stepped so much. Hold on. I've stepped so many different times. I done grew so much. Because I learned how to do the work. Every step has a lesson, and that lesson comes from the work. The more you work, the more you understand what you're doing. The more you understand what you're doing, the more you can literally hold on. The more you understand what you're doing, you are building upon your foundation. You see, every step that you have, you're progressing. When you progress, you grow. When you grow, you develop. When you develop, you understand what you're doing. Hold on. You see, hold on. What's going on, Darren? Well, you see, it might seem I can't see everybody that's on other platforms. I appreciate y'all for coming in. When you make the progression within yourself, you are understanding what you are doing. As I started to really get really focused behind the podcast production, I'm like, all right, cool. What do I need to do? What do I need to focus on? Okay, if I have a podcast production business, I need to be doing podcasts consistently. As I continue to do podcasts consistently, in fact, I have a podcast now. I'm doing a podcast. I have a podcast today at 12. And then right after that, I have an interview. You see, it's not the fact that the podcast is not working. It's more so as it's working, I'm talking about how it's working. You see, the system is the secret. The system is the blueprint. The system is the foundation. How can I go from one podcast to another podcast? You call that progression. You call that planning. You call that being organized. You see, but before I got organized, I had to understand what I was doing. I had to understand it was called the podcast production. As I start to get feedback and look at what other people I'm doing, I'm trying to understand they don't just have a podcast, they have a podcast production business. It's not the fact that their business is different than mine, it's more so they just have a better understanding of what they are doing. You see, shout out to my coach. What's up, darling? Shout out to my coach back in high school, Coach Ely. Coach Ely was a good coach. He was a hard coach. He was a coach that wanted the best from you. And one day we was practicing. It was a position that I couldn't get the hang of. And it was like, man, what am I doing wrong? And I knew exactly what I was doing wrong. I just was playing a victim role. I wasn't working hard enough for this position. And so when I didn't get the concept of it, I'm like, man, I'm doing something wrong. He came to me one day and he tapped me in my helmet. He say, Hump, you are a high rep guy. And I'm like, what does that mean? He say, it take you a long time to understand what you're doing. And I said, no, it don't. I can understand things quickly. He said, no, you can't. Because I just told you can't. Because I'm literally watching you practice. But see, here's the thing that I was missing. He was watching the mess up. He was watching the errors. He was watching the mistakes. You see, it wasn't the fact that I was making a lot of mistakes. It was more so I was making a lot more mistakes than other people. Because if he had to say that to me, that means I wasn't doing the job correctly. Now, why is that important? That's called progression. When you receive feedback, you are progressing because people are telling you what's working. People are telling you what's not working. People are telling you how you need to improve. But when you learn how to improve, you improve the business that you are in. Hold on. I got to take a sip of water on that one. That was deep because it's not about the secret. It's more so about your hard work. It's more so about the effort that goes on behind the scene. It's more so about the commitment that you have. You see, when you are committed to your growth, hold on. When you commit to your growth, you are establishing your foundation. Hold on. That's the next point I want to hit on. That's the next point I want to hit on is that you have to build your foundation. You have to build your foundation. And what we just went over, we actually just went over secret equals hard work. Everybody say, what's your secret? But they don't ask how hard you had to work, how many obstacles you had to overcome. You see, when you build your foundation, you understand more. Understand more. This morning, I'll give you a promise up, but this morning I woke up, I was like, man, is this paying off? Is what I'm doing, the podcast, failures, knowledge, learning about business, going to school for business, trying to make time for my relationship, like, is it paying off? Hold on. Instead of me asking, is it paying off? I start to recognize how far have I came? How far have I come? What song is that? Look how far I've come, or something like that. You have to recognize how far you came in and recognize the position that you are in. I start to understand although it's not working how I would like it to work. I'm not as profitable as I would like to be. That's okay. Eventually, because of the work that I'm doing today, because of the things that I have in place today, eventually it will start to make sense. But before eventually, I have to do the work every single day. Because as I'm doing the work, somebody explained to me what what it's called plateau was. Like this, I forgot how they explained it. But essentially, it's like this right here, plateau. Like it's a straight line. It's a straight, consistent line. Like nothing is happening, nothing is not happening. Yeah, it's like you're maintaining. But then, as you continue to maintain, eventually it starts to do something, right? It starts to do something, but then as it's doing something, because you are maintaining, eventually it will shoot up. Hold on. Before it shoots up, before it goes up, hold on, and I'm saying success or more customers, what have you, this has to happen. Maintaining has to happen. Why? Because if I'm not maintaining, I'm not consistent. If I'm not consistent, I'm not showing up how I need to be. If I'm not consistent, I'm not doing the work how I'm supposed to be doing. You see, maintaining helps me improve the systems. Maintaining helps me improve the podcast. Maintaining helps me improve how to have a podcast production business. Because as I've been maintaining for so long, eventually I'll be able to have more customers to help them with their podcast, to help real estate developers change the audience again, help real estate developers launch, manage, and produce their podcast. I have to maintain right here because I have to maintain the level of consistency. I have to maintain the level of the system. I have to maintain the level of the steps. It's not the fact that the steps are not making sense. Hold on. It's more so as I continue to do it, eventually it will take off. Eventually it will take off, but before it takes off, I'm gonna put a circle around that. See, before it takes off, okay, you have to learn how to fail. You have to learn how to fail. You see, you're not a failure because you're trying. You become a failure when you are not trying, when you are not pushing yourself, when you're not encouraging. You see, a lot of people are afraid to fail because they have fear to they have fear to mess up. You're not messing up if you're trying. The biggest thing that I learned during that time while playing football, my coach say, "Hump, you a high rep guy." I could have took that personally and stopped trying, stop putting effort in. But one day I was like, one day it will pay off. One day I will make a difference. One day a lot of people's going to know who Terrell Humphrey is. I kept that mindset. I kept that perspective, and I started asking more questions to become better. As I became better, I became better because of the questions and information I was receiving. I no longer had to maintain because, yes, I'm trying to figure out what I was doing. But the biggest blessing in disguise came from when I switched positions. When I switched positions, I took the same approach of learning more, asking more questions, studying the film, watching myself, improving. As I start to do that, I start to get better. But when I switched positions, I played linebacker, which I really thrived in. I switched positions because I was prepared to switch. Hold on. Check this out. Let me come back to the screen right quick. When you are maintaining, you are preparing. Maintaining, you are preparing. What are you preparing for? To take off? Hold on, let me come back to the screen. Hold on. What are you preparing for? To take off? What are you preparing for? For more success? What are you preparing for? For people to know your name? Why? Because you had to maintain for so long. My 11th and 12th grade year was completely different from my 9th and 10th grade year because my 11th and 12th grade year, I was able to have more playing time. I was able to make more plays. In addition to that, my name got called more frequently. Check this out. Hold on. When you maintaining, it might seem like it's hard. When you maintain it might seem like you're doing something wrong. When you're maintaining, nothing is working in your favor. Until one day, since the foundation has been built upon you maintaining, it's going to eventually help you grow. As it helps you grow, you will learn that you have been growing as you've been maintaining. But first, you have to learn how to maintain the losses, maintain the failures, maintain not having a lot of success. Excuse me. Because eventually, when you do have success, you will start to understand that the success came from when no one was there watching, when no one was there supporting, when no one was there liking. You see, it's not the fact that the likes, subscribes, and the numbers don't matter. What matters is that when people start to watch you, they start to ask you, what's your secret? Hold on. So before I get to the last point, What we just talked about was that when people say, what's your secret? In other words, they say, why did you work hard? Why did you work hard? And then the second point we talked about is that you have to build your foundation. You have to learn how to maintain for you accomplish that success. That success only comes from you maintaining when no one is there watching you. Last point that we're going to talk about, this is the most critical point because that's the point that we're speaking about now. So point number three. Let me make sure. Okay. Point number 3. Don't be so hard on yourself. Okay. I'm telling myself this because although I've been podcasting for the last half a decade, I got a podcast today, and every time I have a new podcast episode, a podcast conversation, I learn a lot of information. Nonetheless, if I would have let that stop me because I don't have all the big numbers, if I would let that stop me because I don't have all the big guests, if I would let that stop me because I don't have everyone else's success, I wouldn't have the systems in place, the steps in place, the processes in place, like any other podcast. You see, the greatest compliment that I ever received, excuse me, hold on. You see, the greatest compliment that I ever received was that, a lot of people say that when they come onto the Phase Knowledge podcast, they say it's completely different than any other podcast. And I'm like, wow, why is it different? And they say when we go into the podcast, you don't remember you going on to the podcast. You see, once you have the podcast conversation, that's it. And I'm like, why? Why? There's a meme that say, why? by Will Ferrell. Why? You see, getting into business, learning the business language, the business terminology, all these different things. It's like, well, what makes you different? What is your competitive advantage? And when people said that in the beginning, I'm like, bro, why y'all keep saying it? Like, why does that even matter? Now I understand why it matters. You have to figure out what makes you different. Your competitive advantage makes you different. The reason why there are no secrets, because the way you work is the way people are going to remember you. The way you show up is the way people are going to remember you. The way you communicate is the way people are going to remember you. If you are doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, it's hard to remember people who are mediocre. It's hard to remember people who are alike. It's hard to remember people who are the same. But it's easy to remember those who stand out. Hold on. It's easy to remember those who stand out. Why? Because they're not doing what everybody else is doing. That was my biggest thing. And as I was growing up, even when I went to the Marine Corps, I see a group of people doing one thing. I see another group doing another. I'm trying to figure out what path I would like to go on, what direction I would like to focus on. You see, it's not the fact that I thought I was better than anybody, because I'm not better than anybody. I just like to do things differently. I just like to focus on what I need to focus on so I can create and be prepared for my future. You see, I'm always preparing for my future because my future is the thing I'm always thinking about. And that's probably why I'm always like having like anxiety attacks. Like, man, this is going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. Nonetheless, I'm always thinking ahead. Maybe too far ahead, but I'm always thinking ahead. I'm always planning ahead. I'm always preparing for what has yet to come, because when it comes, I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I've been maintaining for so long. When it's time to take off, all the things, the systems, the business, the customers, the revenue are in place because I've been maintaining. When you learn to maintain your business, you learn how to take the good and the bad. As you take the good and the bad, you're learning how to maintain. Hold on. Don't be so hard on yourself, because every day you learn something new. When you learn something new, let's say this right here is the challenge. Let's say this right here is the challenge. Let's say this right here is the challenge. You see, you got to figure out, hold on, how to challenge challenge. Let me just rewrite that. You got to figure out how to challenge yourself. As you challenge yourself, you see the shapes might be different, yet every shape has its own challenge. Every person has its own challenge. Every goal, every mission has their own challenge. In other words, when you start your business, just know you're going to be facing different challenges. Just know you're going to be facing different obstacles. Just know you can always overcome them, but you have to go through the progress. You have to go through every step and understand that you're really growing within yourself. Never be afraid to go through the process, because the process is going to help you determine your progress. Progress only comes from you understanding that you have to work hard. So don't be so hard on yourself because you're learning what you're doing. Don't be so hard on yourself, because when you learn what you're doing, you start to apply, you start to see why it makes sense. Don't be so hard on yourself, because when you learn something new, then you apply to see why it's working. You start to reiterate, you start to retest, you start to test again why it's working. Don't be so hard on yourself, because you're learning how to apply the information instead of letting the information just stay in your mind. So just to recap, the title name of the episode was There Are No Secrets. Point number one is that we talked about why secret equals hard work. People ask you, what's your secret, instead of how hard did you have to work. Talked about that. Lesson number two, we talked about building your foundation. When you build your foundation, you understand more. But it's the steps that you have to go through that will help you maintain the good and the bad. As the good and bad is coming along, you're learning how to maintain. Last thing that we talk about is don't be so hard on yourself. You might have different seasons, different shapes, different obstacles that you have to face. Nonetheless, face them and don't be so hard on yourself as you conquer them. So this has been a great episode. Let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway on why when you identify why there are no secrets and how you're going to start applying to yourself. Lastly, don't be afraid to fail, because failure is knowledge and you only grow when you fail. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all in the following video.